Welcome to the Dynamics of Everyday Life, where we demystify some tricky concepts and get to know ourselves a little bit better. Welcome back to the show. It's been an interesting few days for me. I've been in a situation, the details of which really aren't important, where I've ended up second-guessing myself and I've started to question my decisions and my choices. Some people have assumed that they know who I am and what my abilities are with, when you think about it, very little evidence or knowledge of these. But it can get to you. It can undermine how you feel about yourself, and you can wonder, or even start to wonder, who's right in this type of situation. And other similar examples can be, maybe you've walked away from a conversation and you've thought, I feel awful, and I'm really not sure why. Or maybe you found yourself apologising for something that doesn't quite feel like it should be yours to carry. You can feel a bit blurry and unsure of yourself. You start to wonder if you're the problem. You're the common denominator in all of this. And it can feel like you need extra validation from people and checking in with others that you aren't the one that's losing your mind. I am not a huge Taylor Swift fan, or a Taylor Swift fan of any size really, but it's brought to mind the lyric, "It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me." Because in my situation, that's what I've started to wonder. Is that the case? Is it really me? And in these situations, we can also end up giving our power away. And that sounds like a very coachy description of what's happening. And I am a coach, so no surprise there. But there's also something deeper going on, something that's much more than a surface level transaction. So what could this be? It won't surprise you to learn that there's some defence mechanisms swirling about in the mix here. And the most notable one amongst these is projective identification. Now, we've talked about this before, but let's do a quick recap. Not everyone eats, sleeps and breathes this stuff like I do. We all have parts of ourselves that we don't like very much. Parts that we want to keep from our conscious mind because it would cause us too much anxiety to think about them or to be reminded of them. Remember, we're going to try and avoid anxiety at all costs. So what we do is we split that part of ourselves off. Maybe it's guilt, anger, shame, or even incompetence. And we push it into someone else by our interactions, either subtly or, in some cases, not so subtly. Now, one of two things can happen here. One way is that we can see what's happening and we choose not to take it on. We can almost hand it back to the person attempting to give it to us, beautifully gift wrapped, with almost like a big bow on top of it. Or we start to feel what they're trying to get rid of feeling. We start to feel that shame, anger, guilt or incompetence. We've identified with their projection into us and ended up making something that belongs to somebody else become part of us. This can be exhausting and confusing. Projective identification messes with boundaries and creates doubt in our minds. We can start to feel like the bad guy even when we aren't sure what we've done wrong. We just have this unnerving feeling that we are in the wrong. And that is a horrible place to be. Projective identification thrives on being an unconscious mechanism because it helps keep the dynamic moving. Now, how can we spot projective identification? There are some telltale signs to be on the lookout for that indicate that it's not you. The first one is that you feel emotions that seem to be disproportionate or crash down on you like a tsunami out of the blue. There you are, getting on with your day, and something comes in and sideswipes you out of nowhere, maybe after a conversation or interaction with someone. Chances are that's not yours to carry. You can also find yourself justifying behaviour or attitudes that you're normally quite confident or secure in. You're starting to second guess yourself. Am I right to behave this way or take this action? Maybe I'm not right. Now, I'm not saying don't ever critically analyse your choices and behaviours, but check in with your motivations as to why you're thinking this right at this moment. Are you starting to question yourself just after a conversation with someone else? And do you often have this feeling after these conversations? You can also start to feel responsible for someone else's mood or state of being. Maybe you feel different around them, you're always on edge, or that you're difficult or clumsy around them. You could be feeling all the feelings that they find unbearable to carry, so they've diverted them towards you. Now, what can we do around this? First of all, stop. Ask yourself, does this feeling seem like something I would have, or does it feel like something that's been put onto me? The next thing, very important this one is, and one that I wish I was more competent at, contain this feeling. Don't throw it back at the person straight away, no matter how tempting this might be. It just escalates the situation. And that isn't going to help anybody here. I can attest to that last week. Annoying as it might be, I wish I'd listened to my husband when he said, "You do not need to respond to this any more than acknowledging receipt." Ah, what a gift hindsight is. If you're able to separate it out from your feelings, then name it. This could be someone else's stuff, not yours. Now, this all sounds great, doesn't it, that we're doing it on our own, but actually, sometimes we just can't do this on our own. So one thing that I'd always recommend is a tried and tested response is checking in with someone who knows you well. So someone who's supportive and someone who's always going to tell you the truth. Because sometimes it is us and sometimes it is them. And sometimes it's both our stuff getting all mixed up like a glamorous cocktail, which can look exciting, but can also be a bit lethal. My invitation for you this week is for you to have a think about where in your life you've held on to something that wasn't yours to carry. Were you able to put it down? If so, what happened when you stopped carrying it? And, as always, give yourself some grace. It can be hard to recognise that the feelings we've been lugging around with us, maybe for some time, actually never belonged to us in the first place. Before we close, I want to share with you a couple of things that are coming up. So in early September, I'm doing a webinar with Scott Warren around our defence mechanisms that can come into play when we're thinking about pricing. Always a tricky topic for us coaches. It's definitely worth coming along to that if you're able to. And also my course, Essential Psychodynamics for Coaches, starts again in September. The first round was fantastic. I had such a blast. We had an incredible group of coaches with lots of learning and discussions. There's already people joining up now. So if you don't want to miss out, come and join the fabulous coaches that already have signed up for some psychodynamic fun. Send me a DM or an email and we can have a chat. And as we always finish, looking at ourselves at this level can be challenging and unnerving as we develop our awareness, so I'd always encourage that you do this at your own speed. If you feel you need some extra help around this, then I've put together a PDF resource sheet and you can find the link for this in the show notes. If you'd like to have a chat with me about psychodynamics or whether I'm the right coach, supervisor or mentor for you, then click on the link that's also in the show notes. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Dynamics of Everyday Life. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. As well as producing this podcast, The Dynamics of Everyday Life has lots more psychodynamic fun going on, and you can find out more at dynamicsofeveryday.life.